Have you ever been startled awake in the dead of night by a strange feeling that something is deeply out of place? As if a quiet knowing was whispering to your soul that the person lying next to you isn't supposed to be there. This unexplainable ache that tightens your chest, that makes your heart race for no apparent reason, this is not paranoia. It is your spirit trying to alert you to a truth your mind refuses to see. Because when God has not sanctioned a union, He leaves behind invisible trails that only a sensitive spirit can detect. There is a vast gulf between what our hearts desire and what the Creator has designed for us. In that chasm, millions of people build relationships that look perfect on the outside, but carry a subtle shadow and energy that doesn't flow. A connection that feels forced, a peace that never truly arrives. The most unsettling part is that these individuals can spend years, even entire decades, without realizing they are fighting against a celestial tide. They feel the resistance but call it a challenge. They feel the weight but call it growth. They feel the emptiness but try to fill it with more effort. The human heart is a mysterious landscape where the sacred and the secular blend almost seamlessly. How often have you wondered why some people around you experience a love that flows like crystal clear water, while yours feels like a constant uphill battle? Why, for some, everything unfolds with a sense of natural grace, while you have to force every gesture, every word, every moment of connection. The answer is hidden in layers, far beyond what our eyes can see, and, once you understand it, nothing will ever be the same. Today, we will uncover the signs the universe itself sends when a romantic choice was not authored by the divine. These signs don't shout, they whisper. They don't explode, they erode. They don't destroy all at once, they drain the life from you, drop by drop, until you wake up one day and no longer recognize the person in the mirror. If you feel you need to find out whether you're living the love God dreamed for you, or if you're trapped in an illusion that's consuming your essence, then subscribe to this channel, because the truths we will share here could forever change the way you see your relationships. The first sign that your romantic choice was not woven by divine hands is when you have to actively convince yourself that you are happy. When joy becomes a daily construction, a fortress you must build each morning to shield your heart from its own reality. Notice how familiar this sounds. You wake up, look at the person beside you, and for a split second, just a fraction of a moment, you hesitate. Something inside you silently questions if this is where you belong. That hesitation is not ordinary doubt. It is your soul acknowledging that it is out of its designated place. When God blesses a union, peace settles in like a river finding its natural course. There's no strain to be happy, you simply are. There's no need to prove to yourself that you made the right choice, you just know it in your bones. There isn't that inexplicable fatigue that comes from trying to fit together two puzzle pieces that were never cut from the same design. But when the choice stems from impulse, loneliness, fear, or social pressure, you become an actor playing the part of someone living their great love story. And actors, no matter how skilled, always become exhausted when the play never ends. Observe your own behavior when you are alone. In your moments of silence, when there is no one to impress or persuade, what thoughts come to visit? Do you feel a sense of relief, a feeling that you can finally breathe? Or do you feel guilty for feeling that relief? That guilt is a powerful indicator arises because, deep down, you know you shouldn't feel better on your own than with your partner. In a relationship blessed by God, solitude is not a refuge, it's merely an intermission between moments of genuine communion. The difference between a divine choice and a human one is clear in the quality of energy you must invest. When you choose on your own, you must constantly feed the relationship with mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. It's like trying to keep a bonfire lit during a storm. You can never stop fanning the flames, never stop adding fuel, never fully relax. But when God makes the choice for you, the love feeds on a source that transcends human effort. It is sustained by a grace that doesn't depend on your strength. As the scripture says, His burden is light, not a crushing weight you carry alone. And perhaps the most disturbing realization is that you knew this from the very beginning. That tiny, almost inaudible voice that tried to warn you on the first date, with the first kiss, at the first I love you. That voice was real. It wasn't fear of commitment or personal insecurity. It was your spirit trying to protect you from a journey that, while appearing beautiful on the surface, would not lead you to your true destination. But you chose the noise of the world over the whisper of heaven. And now, perhaps, it is time to listen again. The second sign reveals itself in how much you have to change yourself to be accepted in the relationship. When love doesn't come from God, it often demands that you become a curated version of yourself, a little softer here, a bit tougher there, less of this, more of that. You start to notice that your natural laughter is met with annoyance, that your biggest dreams seem incompatible, that your true opinions must be filtered before they are spoken. Slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to sand down the edges of your God-given personality to fit into the mold this relationship requires. The tragedy is that this process is so subtle, you might even convince yourself that you are simply maturing or evolving. But God does not orchestrate relationships that diminish the person He created you to be. He designs encounters that unveil versions of you that you never knew existed, brighter, truer, and more whole versions. In a divine love, you don't have to hide your quirks. They become the very details that are most cherished. Your flaws aren't merely tolerated, they are embraced as part of the unique masterpiece you are. You don't feel smaller next to this person, you feel more authentically yourself than ever before. As it is written, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and a God-sent partner will never ask you to apologize for that design. Consider how you act with this person versus how you are with old friends or family. Is there a difference? Is there a mask you wear? A persona you adopt? If so, that isn't love, it's a performance. It's a social contract where you trade authenticity for approval, truth for a superficial harmony, and all contracts, no matter how well drafted, have an expiration date. They always reach a point where the cost of maintaining the facade becomes greater than the benefit of staying. The person God has chosen for you doesn't just accept who you are, they awaken who you are meant to become. They see potential in you that you can't see in yourself. They encourage dreams you had long buried, and they celebrate victories that others might deem insignificant. In their presence, you don't feel judged for your struggles. You feel empowered to overcome them. There isn't a constant tension of having to prove your worth. Your value is naturally recognized, as if they were given the right eyes to see your light. And perhaps most tellingly, you realize that at some point, you stopped dreaming together. Your plans for the future run on parallel tracks instead of being woven together. You might share the same house and the same bed, but you inhabit different worlds. This doesn't happen when two people are meant for each other. When God joins two hearts, He also aligns their destinies. As the prophet Amos asked, can two walk together unless they are in agreement? Their individual journeys may have different rhythms, but they move in the same direction, driven by a shared purpose. The third sign manifests in the quality of the silence between you. When a relationship has not been blessed by the Creator, the silence becomes heavy, burdened with unspoken words, accumulated resentments, and frustrated expectations. You can be in the same room, yet it feels as if you occupy separate universes, physically close, but miles apart in dimensions you can't even name. This silence isn't peace. It is the absence of a real connection. It is the echo of two souls, trying to find each other, but failing because they are not tuned to the same divine frequency. In a love that comes from God, silence is communion. You can spend hours together without saying a word, yet there is an invisible communication taking place, a conversation between hearts that transcends language. It is a nourishing silence that feeds rather than drains, that connects rather than separates. You feel the person's presence even when they are not speaking, and that presence brings comfort, not tension. It's as if two souls finally found their perfect harmony, where even the quiet moments become a beautiful melody. But when you feel the need to constantly fill the empty spaces with forced conversation, when silence becomes a chasm that exposes the lack of true intimacy, that is a spiritual alarm bell ringing. You begin to realize that you know this person's habits, their preferences, their routines, but you do not know their soul. You can discuss practical matters for hours, but when you try to talk about deeper things, fears, greater purpose, conversation quickly fizzles out. It's as though you are speaking different spiritual languages. True intimacy is not just built on the physical or emotional. It happens on the spiritual level. It is when two people can meet at the deepest core of their being, where the truths they cannot always articulate reside. When God brings two lives together, He builds invisible bridges between their souls. You begin to sense what the other is, feeling before they even speak. You share similar dreams, notice similar signs, and feel complementary callings. This is not coincidence, it is divine design. Deep calls to deep, as the psalmist wrote. Notice too, how you handle moments of crisis. When life applies pressure, when circumstances become challenging, do you unite as a team or do you pull? apart. In a blessed relationship, difficulties become opportunities to grow together, to discover strengths you didn't know you possessed. But when the choice did not come from heaven, crises expose the fragile foundation. You start blaming each other, questioning if the effort is worth it, and fantasizing about what life would be like with someone else. In these moments of pressure, the truth is revealed. You are not a team. You are two individuals trying to use a relationship to solve personal problems that can only be resolved individually, in the presence of God. The fourth sign is revealed through the fruit this relationship produces in your spiritual life. When a relationship was not planted by the hands of the eternal, it often acts as a subtle drain on your connection to the sacred. You might not notice it at first, but slowly, your prayer life becomes mechanical. Your time in the Word loses its flavor, and that natural thirst for spiritual things is replaced by a thirst for human approval. It's as if this person, perhaps unintentionally, is occupying the space in your heart that should be reserved for God. Observe how you feel when you must choose between a moment of intimacy with the Creator and a moment with this person. Is there a conflict? Is there guilt? Is there a sense that you are betraying someone, but you're not sure who? This happens because when we enter relationships outside of God's will, we inadvertently create idols. We place expectations on a created being that only the Creator can fulfill. We look to them to fill our voids, heal our wounds, and give us purpose burdens they were never meant to carry. In a relationship that comes from heaven, the opposite occurs. Your partner's presence awakens an even greater hunger for God. They don't compete with your spiritual life, they complement it. You pray together, not out of obligation, but because it feels natural and strengthens both your bond with God and with each other. There's no need to impose spiritual values. They emerge organically because two people chosen by the same God are naturally walking in the same spiritual direction. There's also a subtle but profound difference in how you influence each other. In an unblessed relationship, one person is often pulling the other down, not necessarily into obvious sin, but into a spiritual mediocrity disguised as normalcy. There are always excuses for not seeking more of God, rational arguments for why it's not necessary to be so on fire for your faith. But when two people are destined for each other by the Most High, they inspire one another to be better, to seek more, and to not settle for a lukewarm faith. And perhaps the clearest sign is realizing you must hide certain areas of your spiritual life from this person. You can't freely share about your experiences with God, your callings, or your revelations, because you know you won't be understood, or worse, you'll be discouraged. This is a clear warning from the Holy Spirit, reminding you of the scriptural wisdom not to be unequally yoked. When you find yourself praying about your relationship more than you pray with your partner in it, you are being shown that you are trying to mix oil and water, the sacred with the secular. And God, in His infinite mercy, will keep sending signals until you are ready to see the fifth sign emerges when you realize you are constantly drained, as if the relationship is an emotional vacuum, sucking your life force away without ever being satisfied. In a relationship not blessed by God, you often become the perpetual giver, always giving more than you receive, always investing more than you harvest, always trying to fill an emptiness that seems to have no bottom. The unsettling part is that your partner may not even be doing this consciously. They simply weren't designed to be your complement. So you naturally exhaust yourself trying to make something work that was never meant to flow. You wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. You feel like you need constant breaks from the relationship just to recover, as if it's an emotional marathon with no finish line. Your friends start to comment that you've changed, that you've seemed dimmer, that you've lost the sparkle you used to have in your eyes. And you try to explain it away, to justify it. But deep down you know they are seeing something you don't yet have the courage to admit. You are withering in a relationship that should be making you bloom. When God chooses someone for you, there is a natural reciprocity in the flow of energy. It's a divine exchange where you both intuitively know when to lead and when to follow, when to give and when to receive. You feel yourself growing alongside this person, becoming a better version of yourself, not through sheer effort, but through mutual inspiration. A God-ordained relationship bears good fruit in every area of your life. There are times you give more and times you receive more, but a divine equilibrium sustains you both without depleting either one. Pay attention to how you feel after your time together, after the dates, the conversations, the moments of intimacy. Do you feel renewed or exhausted, inspired or diminished? more hopeful, or more anxious. In a divine love, even the difficult moments leave you with a sense of growth and purpose, but when you're in the wrong relationship, even the good times can feel strained, artificial, like something you have to convince yourself is working. And here is an even more subtle detail. You start to realize your other relationships are suffering. Your connection with friends becomes superficial because you have no emotional energy left to invest. Your relationship with family grows tense because you feel torn between loyalties. Your pursuit of your own dreams and projects is neglected because all your internal fuel is being used to keep a high-maintenance relationship running. When God blesses a union, it strengthens all the other healthy connections in your life. When the choice is merely human, it competes with everything that truly matters. The sixth and final sign manifests as a spiritual restlessness you can neither explain nor silence. It's as if your soul is on constant high alert, knowing that it's outside of its intended destiny, even as your mind insists on rationalizing and finding reasons to stay. You wake up in the middle of the night with a racing heart for no reason. You have strange dreams, see signs you can't interpret, and carry a persistent feeling that you should be somewhere else, with someone else, living a different story. But when you try to talk about it, people tell you it's normal, that all relationships are hard, that you're being too demanding. This restlessness is not paranoia or emotional instability. It is your spirit recognizing that you are living outside the will of God. It's like a songbird trying to live underwater, or a fish trying to fly. It might work for a while with tremendous effort, but it will never be natural, never be sustainable, never be what it was designed for. Your innermost being knows there is a place where you would fit perfectly, a person with whom your soul could dance without learning the steps, a story that would flow like a river down a mountain effortlessly, without this constant exhaustion of rowing against the current. The most painful part is realizing you may have spent years, perhaps decades, building something that was never meant to last. That while you were pouring all your emotional, spiritual, and physical energy into this relationship, the person God had prepared for you may have passed you by and you weren't available to recognize them, or worse, they are still out there waiting, while you remain stuck in a choice you made based on fear, neediness, or social pressure. But there is a difference between wasting time and investing in wisdom. God can use even our wrong relationships to prepare us for the right one. Sometimes we must experience what is not for us to truly recognize what is. We need to taste the bitterness of a forced connection to appreciate the sweetness of a divine one. We need to go through the trial of building something with our own hands to understand the beauty of receiving something already perfected from the hands of the Creator. The question isn't whether you will discover you're in the wrong relationship pit. What you will do when you finally have the courage to admit what your heart already knows, because God is not cruel. He does not plant desires in your heart that He doesn't intend to satisfy. If there is a hunger in you for a deeper, truer love, one that is connected to your divine purpose, it's because that love exists, and maybe, just maybe, it's closer than you think, waiting only for you to be brave enough to release what isn't yours to make room for what was always meant to be. Liberation begins with truth, and the truth, as the scripture promises, will set you free. If you have listened this far, it's because something within you has recognized truths you may have been trying to silence for years. It's no coincidence that these words have found you today. Is the universe conspiring to help you finally hear what your heart has known all along? There are moments in life when we must stop running from ourselves and have the brutal honesty to admit, perhaps I chose with my eyes, with my mind, with my fear, but not with my spirit. The truth is, God never wanted you to settle for crumbs of love when He has prepared a banquet for you. He never intended for you to spend your life trying to jam together puzzle pieces that weren't made to fit, while somewhere out there is someone who is molded to perfectly fill the empty spaces in your soul. Perhaps you are afraid to start over, to hurt someone, to face judgment, to be alone for a while. But what if that season of solitude is just the hallway you must walk through to reach the door of your true destiny? Not every love we feel is the love we are meant to live. Not every person who attracts us is destined to stay. Sometimes, God allows us to taste what isn't ours to sharpen our appetite for what truly is. And when you finally meet the person He has chosen for you, you will understand why all the others didn't work out. They weren't failures, they were preparation. They weren't punishments, they were lessons. They weren't a waste of time. They were an investment in a wisdom that can only be acquired through living. The question that echoes now is not whether you deserve a true, God-given love. You do. The question is, will you have the courage to release what isn't yours to receive, what was always meant to be? If this message has awakened something in you, if it has planted seeds of reflection that will continue to grow, then show your support with a like, share this with someone who needs to hear these truths, and subscribe to this channel, because the journey back home, to true love, to the life God dreamed for you, is just beginning.